Hi everyone, welcome to British Science Week. I'm Emily Coughlan and I'm a Senior Scientific Officer working for the RSPCA Farm Animals Department, and I'm going to talk to you a bit today about the work that we do and farm animal welfare. So the Farm Animals Department is a team within the RSPCA. We're scientists with a particular interest and knowledge in this area, and we look to work out how we can improve welfare for our particular species. So I cover ruminants, which includes dairy and beef cattle, veal, which is sort of specifically calves, and sheep. I oversee sheep and the occasional camelid, so that's llamas and alpacas. We stay on top of all the latest developments in welfare science, and we work closely with food and farming industries, as well as vets and other welfare scientists, the government, so teams like DEFRA, and we also work internationally to help improve farm animal welfare. So an example of our work recently is the DEFRA Animal Health and Welfare Pathway, which is a subsidy scheme for farmers to help them economically to improve animal welfare on their farm. And this is going to have an impact on billions of farmed animals across the UK. We work with RSPCA Assured, which is the Farm Animal Welfare Assurance Scheme, and they use our RSPCA welfare standards for all the major farmed animal species. So we are involved in writing those welfare standards, and the RSPCA Assured team make sure that they're being implemented on farm. So these standards cover beef and dairy cattle and sheep, but also pigs and laying hens, meat chickens, turkeys, ducks, and even salmon and trout. And these documents are really important because they cover every single aspect of that animal's life from birth to death, looking at all the ways that welfare needs to be protected and how farmers can do that. So this covers the food and the water, transport, their management and healthcare, the environment that they live in, and their final moments at slaughter. So every single member of RSPCA Assured has to follow these standards, and the team at RSPCA Assured make sure they're doing so through regular assessments. So every single year, every single member will have an assessment, and there are also unannounced spot check visits as well. RSPCA Assured is unique in the UK because it's the only assurance scheme that purely focuses on farm animal welfare. What is welfare science? It is a science that looks at data, so looks at measurable things, for example, lameness levels in dairy cows. It also looks at the animals, so animal behavior, for example, and how animals react in certain situations. And then it covers a range of studies. So there might be comparative studies looking at data for animals in one system compared to another, or there might be preference studies, so looking at when animals are given a choice, which type of flooring or something they prefer, and then also looking at how much more they prefer it. So how motivated are they to reach one resource versus another? And increasingly in recent years, there's been a shift into from looking at just inputs. So that would be looking at, one bedding compared to another, but actually looking at how these inputs impact outcomes. So, for example, feather loss in hens or tail biting in pigs. What inputs actually help reduce these things in practice on the farm? So it's really, really important. And animals are sentient beings. They are capable of experiencing positive and negative emotions, like pain and fear, but also happiness and pleasure. And so welfare science helps progress farming to take into account these needs and also these preferences to give animals choices to live a good life. And because animal products are used in such a wide range of things, not just the food we eat or the clothes that we wear. It's really important that the animals that we farm are treated as well as possible. So we are aiming to make standards as stretching as possible, as good for animals as possible, whilst maintaining a viable commercial business. So it's financially sustainable for a farmer to implement them on farm. I've always been interested in science, but I think my particular interest in welfare science started when I wanted to be a vet. I think this is because I grew up in very rural part of the UK, and both my parents are involved in the farming industry, so it was very much a part of my life growing up. And then through my veterinary studies, I realised how hard farmers work to help their animals, and how sometimes it's not clear for them what the right course of action is to offer their animals the best life. As a vet, I've always been interested in particularly the practical application of science. So taking science from a sort of a lab based setting, which can be looking at sort of changes at a cellular or even finer level of detail, and how that actually translate into real life changes. So what that actually means on the ground in a commercial setting. And one person I think has been particularly eminent in animal welfare science that I particularly admire is a chap called Professor David Muller. He spent a lot of his career in New Zealand, but also here in the UK, up in Edinburgh. And he spent a lot of his time looking into the welfare of animals and promoting that through his work, which has had really wide ranging implications. Um, it's certainly informed the standards in many ways, but also he has not shied away from more difficult areas of animal welfare science, areas that perhaps people don't want to study and find a bit uncomfortable, like the welfare of animals at slaughter. Um, but this is still a really key point in the animals' lives. So I really admire him for tackling that head on, and trying to improve the welfare of animals at that time of their life as well as others. Um, so if you'd like to find out more about what we do, the RSPCA has a website which tells you all about the farm animals department and the work that we do and the standards as well, if you'd like to see what standards we have. And RSPCA Assured also have a website explaining the work that they do, and then you can see the logo and look out for the logo on packs of meat and animal products to see if you could start buying some higher welfare products when you're out shopping.